Hello everybody, what is up? My name is Sir Medieval and today, let's talk. So I know, as you guys may well know, that there was a balance patch released last night. Apparently it increased the cooldown on the cold snap to about 4 seconds, 4, 5, 6 seconds maybe. When I used it, it was only like 5 seconds, but other people were saying it might be 7. So I don't know what to tell you there. I do have increased acceleration, so that might have an effect on it. But anyway, today we want to help some of you guys out, see if we can give you some tips on what the best build might be and what you might want to look for, depending on what your build is. Let's start with the flame stance. No matter what, you definitely want the flame tactic on your bar. The reason I say that is because if you can look at the conversion effect, it has an increased skill critical hit rate by 20% for an X amount of seconds. It's about 9 seconds. So if you don't know, or you haven't been using the stance switching properly, and you don't know about these conversion effects, this is basically how it works. So when you switch your stance, like so, it increases that for usually about 8 seconds, is that critical hit. That is very important on your bar. Now I also use the mixed stance, but it's not as effective. It increases the damage of the next combo stance starting skill by X%, covers mana as well. I've never really noticed the mana regeneration, so I'm not sure if it's fully working properly right now, but either way, you definitely want the flame stance no matter which one you're interested in. Now, what I go for, and what you should go for either way, is I go for a lot of the instant casts. So, bread and butter, if you're trying to regenerate mana, you need to upgrade Mana Shot. That obtains up to 4% of your maximum mana when you upgrade it fully, like that. You can upgrade the Magic Absorption to do the same thing as well. So that's your 1RR combo. 1%, 1%, 1%, 1%. That's really good to have, especially in PvP. Even if your enemy is immune, like you're fighting a Guardian, that still stacks up, so it's good to really do that. And then when you have your other instant casts, like Fire for instance, I use Incineration, really powerful instant cast skill. And then I go into my Fiery Meteor. All of my Fiery Meteors I always level up every single time. I love that, it's like my bread and butter right there. Fiery Meteor on the flame stance is just awesome. Absolutely awesome. So next thing you want to look at is Kindle. If you're playing Flame, if you primarily like the idea of fire, Kindle, I recommend going for the decreased cast time because it takes a while to charge up, and then you can easily access your other fiery meters. Gotta love those fiery meters. But you can also get access to these other skills as well. Fiery Explosion's actually pretty good too. I'll show you right now. Activate Kindle. That one's not Fire Explosion, but this one is. But you can easily access your other chain skills if you upgrade the cast time on Kindle. That's Fire Explosion right there. Good single target DPS skill. If you need to take someone out pretty quickly, strongly recommend it. Then I have Fiery Eruption, another instant cast skill. I do upgrade this one, but not as much. More for the cooldown, so to speak, because there's multiple things you can do in here. PE-wise, you can go into Flame Strike, which does periodic damage to the area. But I wouldn't recommend trying that in PvE, or PvP, I'm sorry, because you kind of have to aim it, like so. Move around while doing it, more than likely they're going to kite out of it, so it's not worth using in PvP. What I recommend going for is for the Flame Shot upgrade and then the Fiery Meteor again. This one actually stuns people. That's why I strongly recommend this one the most. As you can see, not all of the meteors stun. Other classes have the same thing going on where not all of the skills stun, but that one definitely does. So keep an eye on that one. Now, I do go mixed stance, but the reason I go for it is it's a really strong AoE and single target mixed stance. As you can see, the conversion effect isn't that useful, but what I do love is a static charge. First off, if you have like 5 mages in a group and they all buff someone to do static charge, it just sends them flying. Like, they break the sound barrier. They go so freaking fast. It's a really good skill to have. You can use it on yourself, or you can use it on an enemy to slow them down. And then you can go right into one of my favorite skills, Frigate Spear. This is quite possibly, if not the most powerful skill in our build. As you can see, it didn't crit at all, but this is the skill that you would usually crit about 15k for if the DPS nerf didn't come in. This skill is extremely powerful. I'll show it to you next time it's off cooldown. But I upgrade the Frigate Spear all the way through. This is a really good, and it's a really instant cast kind of thing too. So if somebody's running away, or you just need to chunk somebody really hard, I usually go for that instant spear combo. So 2T, get to the Frigate Spear. Then you also have Incineration right here as well, and another Fiery Meteor on that static charge. Very important combo, as you can see. Also have an AoE capability. You have Bring Me Thanos skill, one of my favorite skills. And then of course you also have in this stance the Icy Wave, very powerful ice ability as well. And that one is more for if melee are near you, you can push them away with Chilling Wind. I do recommend leveling up the Icy Wave, but I don't recommend relying on it as much as like Frigate Spear, for instance. Because Icy Wave takes about 2-3 seconds to cast. We got 2-3 second cast versus an insta cast. And as you can see, the damage is pretty much on par between Frigate Spear and the Icy Wave. So it's much better to just focus on that Frigate Spear. Do it that way. When it crits, it does a lot of damage. Trust me, trust me. So if you want to go to Ice Stance, I would still recommend having Flame Tactic on your build. Ice Stance is still viable despite the nerf. Let's go ahead and switch over to it. We'll see what we can do for you. Alright, so with this one, you can still use Biting Cold, of course. You get Biting Cold, press T and T, you go into Freezing. Deals damage over time and decreases their movement speed. And then it freezes the target for 3 seconds when the damage over time duration finishes. So if I were to go T, T, and then Freezing, and over time, after that is done, it should freeze them right up, assuming this deer is still alive when the time it finishes. Like so. There you go. Still very useful. As you can see, the Ice Snap has been increased in cooldown, but don't worry, you'll be alright. Trust me. You can also do Biting Cold into Ice Shot and then Icy Wave as well. Again, don't want to rely on it in PvP. It's more of your PvE whack-a-mole kind of skill. If you have a positioning, a really good positioning that you can use Icy Wave, like in the middle of their backline, for instance, I definitely recommend it. But in terms of like starting right off the bat, don't try that. Then you have that combo there. So that's Frozen Ground right there. It's supposed to freeze their legs for 4 seconds, but it's not working at the moment. We do have to get feedback on that. But that's a really useful combo right there as well, because as you can see, go from Frozen Ground right into Ice Blast, and then Frigate Spear to finish them off. As I said, Frigate Spear is one of our most powerful, if not most powerful ability next to Ice Wave. So, strongly recommend upgrading this if you are going into Ice. And don't forget the Magic Shot. So Lightning, Ice, and Fire but all have the Magic Shot. No matter which one you're using as your primary, always upgrade this Magic Shot. It's going to help you so much in the long run, trust me. I also have Magic Absorption. On my next build, I went to Magic Absorption, because since you could just spam Magic Shot, you don't really need that Magic Absorption technically, unless they put a cooldown on it at some point. So I wouldn't even worry about it. I would just go on Magic Absorption or on Magic Shot. Now with the Magic Absorption, Magic Shot combo, you can also go from Magic Shot to Frostbite to Ice Blast. Also really good instant cast. It's all about instant cast as much as possible, especially in PvP. If you're going PvE, sure, you definitely want those castables too, but even then, the instant cast will serve you a lot better in the long run too. And there are more powerful spells anyway, so those are the ones you should be going for. But yeah, as I said, you can also go from Frozen Ground into Frostbite into Biting Cold, but it's usually best to just go from Frozen Ground, Ice Blast, Frigate Spear. Strongly recommend it. Now with the Lightning Stance, the Frost Stance is pretty good, especially for like countering melee kind of thing. Really good for that. Alright, so for the Lightning Stance, this one I have to warn you consumes a lot, and I do mean a lot of mana. But it does have some utility in here that could be very useful to you. First off, the Lightning Explosion goes into one of our really, really cool skills called Piercing Wind right there. See the potential on that one? It's already down, but he was still casting kind of thing. Now, beforehand, yesterday, if somebody was immune or anything like that, this skill would be useless. But now it actually might be really... Now the problem with this Piercing Wind skill, though, is you have to get pretty close to them to start using it. As you can see, you have to start off by using Lightning Explosion. That could be a really detrimental issue if you're a mage and you're squishy, of course, as we all are. So yeah, that's the thing to consider. But other than that, that skill is really cool. If they were to switch that off to like give us Thunderbolt, for instance, like so, hey, they actually added a cooldown on Thunderbolt. I'll be darned. Then that would actually be really much better, much better. And then of course you have a very useful teleport, as I just showed you, the LeBlanc teleport. Really good, really good for closing distance, mobility, just all around really good. And you can upgrade it, return 10% of your maximum mana. So if you're planning on using the lightning build and fire, always use fire, then I recommend going for that, just to decrease the amount of mana that you're using. Yeah, Thunderbolt is one of our instant casts, our auto attack basically, of the Thunder tree. like so. You got the LeBlanc teleport, chain lightning, and back. And then also with the third combo tree, we have Typhoon. Now, if you're in PvP, this is a really useful skill. It's like the tornado skill. Does area of time. Really good for keeping people off the flag kind of thing. And then you also have the follow-up, instant knockback kind of thing. Lightning stance overall uses a ton of mana though, so I wouldn't honestly recommend using it over fire or ice as your main, to be honest with you, but it is useful in its ways. But yeah, just keep that in mind. If you're planning on going lightning, at least have fire and at least have this 10%. As in terms of skills to upgrade, you definitely want to upgrade Thunderbolt. Just 2 points on that. Get magic absorption, magic shot, and then magic absorption if you want you can get to 2. That's perfectly fine. And then in terms of the other skills, the thunder and lightning, that's your AoE ability. Lightning arrow takes a little while to cast though, so it might be a little detrimental to you. You could do it technically. That's your bring me Thanos skill. Really useful as well. And then piercing wind, if you're planning on it, then you might as well go for the damage increase all the way to max. I mean that's quite a bit of damage per second. And if you crit, it's like 600, 700 a second kind of thing. Like, look at that. Beautiful. Beautiful. Recommend that. And then in terms of the other one, I would go for the Typhoon, probably. The cooldown reduction on that one rather than the damage. I don't think you'd want to be using that as more of a damaging ability, just off flags and whatnot in PvP. And just getting in the middle people and going ham. And then this one, you don't really have to upgrade. The rest of it's up to you. Those are the general important. Now, in terms of the non-stance skills, the important part, the bread and butter, want the blink with CC reduction. I don't care what build you're running. If you don't have this to teleport you, to make you immune to crowd control, in PvP, you have a very high chance of dying. In PvE, sure, you can definitely have a build. If you have a separate skill deck, you can have the one that gives you the decreased mana consumption and obtain max mana. That's really nice as well. But in terms of PvP, you definitely want the crowd removal. Get 3 charges of this, so that means 3 chances to get out of CC. This one, chances to get more mana. For the disenchant, I do recommend this in PvE especially. This one I don't use on my build right now because I'm mainly spec'd for PvP right now, but what this does is you can upgrade your disenchant. First off, it removes burn, curse, and wound affecting each ally kind of thing, or pretty much. Translation is not really square on that. What you want is the disenchant enhancement stage 1. This increases your spell power up to 30%, 15 seconds. So what you want to do is, if you have that on your bar, like let's say you're in a boss fight, you pop disenchant, you switch off a flame tactic to get that 20% crit rate, you are going to be doing a ton of damage no matter what stance you're using after that. So I definitely recommend this for PvE. If you're primarily going to be speccing for PvE, get that skill, get that enhancement, hands down. Now for PvP, I would recommend Counterspell on your bar, really useful skill. And I would recommend going decreased silent time. Well, I usually I usually go for the increased silent time. So I increase it, even though it's down. I don't have that on this build. I go for the damage one so that I can get people out of their bubbles faster as well. But yeah, I would recommend going for the increased silent time. It's really cool, especially when fighting other mages. Sleep you don't really need PvP, but I have heard that it gets people out of their immunity as well. Haven't tested that out yet though, so I can't tell you for sure. It's worth testing, but I would just skip past that one for now. Unless you're doing PvE, in which case in Migraterus and whatnot, you can't sleep the elite mobs, like the hobgoblins and whatnot, the big boys. You can sleep the little ones at least to keep those off your group while you take down the rest. And then Mana Shield I do recommend with the decreased mana consumption, or wait, what? I guess they changed this one, increased defense chance by mana by 20%. That's unclear, but it used to be you use less mana, so I'm pretty sure it's just that, and they changed the translation a bit. But yeah, I recommend Mana Shields. It acts as a second health bar. In world boss fights, it's actually really useful because if you get hit by one of the mechanics, it won't instantly kill you. It'll just take all your mana. You just swap to your stance, start spamming magic shot, and boom, you got it back up. No matter, and this is a pro tip as well, no matter how much mana you have, as long as you have Mana Shield up, that boss won't kill you when you get hit by that mechanic. So you could have like halfway, for instance. That mana shield's still gonna save your life. Keep that in mind. And then the last one, which is really important, is the distortion. Now for PvP, you gotta have distortion. Absolutely. It's like our bread and butter. Oh my god, I'm about to die. Heal me up, please. You can upgrade this, give you the becoming immune to all attacks. This is basically the Ice Shield ability from World of Warcraft Mage kind of thing. Now you can spec it into becoming immune to physical attacks and cannot attack, or becoming immune to magic damage. But honestly, it just, and you can all see right here, it's just more beneficial to go for the immune to all damage. And the last thing too that we skipped over is we don't really use the elemental discharge. It's for gaining your elements. Honestly, you're going to be stacking that up so fast you don't need it, hands down. Magic, the elemental armor though, is really good. If you want to use it, let's say you want to substitute a little defense, that counter spell for instance, then you could use elemental armor. You can upgrade it to get the air ability, one where it stuns melee targets for 3 seconds. Let's say you have multiple skill decks and you're about to go up against a bunch of melee, I would recommend this. If not, also have these ones, which are reduce their movement speed by 15% for 5 seconds, but I would say just go for the lightning. This one, melee attack hits you, target is burned. Just go for the lightning. Get that stun, you'll be good. That's all there is for the non-stance skills, and then let's go ahead and go forward. So for this one, I suggest going for bottom trees here. You want to go mainly into the left bottom tree and the right bottom tree. I already tested this out on my other tactic, and if you go into the top right one, this used to be strength, but now it gives toughness. Still not something you want to go for. Overall, want to get the early intelligence ones. I went into this tree to get the health, frenzy, which gives us critical hit rate. See here, yeah, critical hit rate and acceleration, which is our haste essentially. And then I also went for the hits. Very important that you have a lot of hit rate as a mage, because if you do miss, it interrupts your chain. But now it's instead of like immunity kind of thing that interrupts your chain, but still that chance to miss, and that's going to interrupt your chain regardless after dispatch. Just keep that in mind. Then you want to go for the intelligence. Physical defense is okay. Magic defense is alright. The magic defense is an important thing really. The physical defense helps against fighting melee. So I just go for those two just in case. Mainly the intelligence though. And then on this bar you go for the vitality. The crafting speed is okay if you that kind of thing, but the critical hit is what you want. And then I go down to these ones. Damage by 3%. Then reduces damage received by 3%. Not very much, but it does stack up. Trust me, it makes a difference. Of course, we got intelligence, HP recovery pace, and out of combat. And then you got your frenzy again, very important. Dodge, which is okay. Non-XP, right? Spell power, that's what we needed. And essentially, when I'm going through this tree, what I'm going for, increase critical hit rate, sure. Critical damage is going to be good by 10%. This one is the one that I'm going for increased damage by 10%. That's going to start stacking up very well, very, very fast. I recommend getting that for sure. I do recommend this tree as well if you're planning on speccing into different kind of thing. If you want a different tree to follow, then acceleration here, got the increased hit, going to be very useful as well. Increased resistance is okay. Battle between players, sure. Increased physical and magical defense by 120, that's going to be very useful. But the increased intelligence by 160, that's the bread and butter right there. That's what you want. So if you max out this tree, for instance, go for this. In terms of like what's more useful, these two trees down here are, as opposed to these ones up here. Just after looking through, yeah, you get acceleration, knockback resistance, but it's a lot of like experience gain and crafting and gathering stuff here. Spell power. Not a lot of increased damage by 10%. Not a lot of things that are going to benefit you, Mage, as opposed to these bottom ones right here. Got increased battle between players, resistance, critical damage, sure, toughness. I would go for this one if you could, but after you focus on these two down here, I would go for this one. Physical and magical defense, toughness, dodge. I would get to like right here, and then I would just go to this tree for the acceleration, and then I would just finish off this tree right here. Because at least with this tree, you get the decrease in 10% damage, you get the increased spell power, that kind of thing. So yeah, this one, get there, and build this one. But that's all there is to it, folks. That's all there is to Mage. I hope this guide helped you a little bit, gave you some tips to help you out in your Mage life. And I want to thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time. Later, folks. Stay frosty, my friends. 6 chain. Remember that.